Our story begins with the first entry in the diary of one man who got caught up in a game of gods who called themselves players and used humans as game characters. The first entry in his diary began with the fact that one day in the year 2023, they were summoned to a separate world that was completely different from the normal world we were all used to. Although to be more accurate, only parts of large cities from different parts of the earth, from New York to Cairo, went to this new world. Each summoned part was given a different number, and the diary owner's part of the city was number 76. In 103 entries, the owner of the diary explained that they had come to a place where there was a game of beings of the higher world. They were called different names: gods, titans, higher beings of existence. And their piece of the city was just a small figure on the playing board, where everything was decided by the will of the gods players and by chance, which the god players rolled dice and moved their pieces. Each square on the playing board corresponded to a different mission, in which the game pawns, humans, had to clear and complete incredibly difficult and painful missions, which could be represented by a battle assignment, a maze, or an investigation. Somewhere at the end of the chain of these mission cages, there was a finish line visible that no one had yet reached. And the role of humans as creatures belonging to the playing figure was one: to protect their figure until the end of the game, in the existence of which they were not even sure. The unknown warrior whose diary we read with a doomed face was finishing his last 743rd entry. He was surrounded by the ruins of a building, flames, and many corpses that had laid down their weapons. His last entry stated that he and his 76th figure had lost to another stronger and luckier figure, and now the fate of the surviving men on that figure was not enviable. For the figures that lost were destroyed and all who were there died. And no matter how sad it was, their figure would suffer the same fate despite their best efforts. That's why he purposely left these notes written in blood and sweat, not even knowing if anyone else would see them but him or not. But he still had hope that whoever found them wouldn't share his fate. The last thing he had warned about, in his notes, was that no matter what, one should not even try to rebel against the players who ran the game, no matter how powerful their weapons or skills were by human standards. It wasn't even worth the thought of trying to rebel against the players. After all, at the end of the day, the humans in the game only had a tiny fraction of their power in this game. It was their game with their rules, and there was nothing the humans could do about it. And as soon as a figure lost on one of the squares, one of the gods immediately destroyed it with his spear. After such a blow, the figure was shattered into pieces and scattered in the space that surrounded the playing field. And after some time, this skeleton is among the ruins, floating in space with a pile of records in front of it. Someone had finally found it. He took the last record from the skeleton's hands and quickly looked through it, assessing the quality of his strategies. They were really not bad. But still, he didn't need them, so he just tossed them onto the sawed floor of the ruins. He already knew how things worked here, so he was going to leave the skeleton of this lone warrior here for the rest of time. One of the players noticed him take off from the island of surviving structures and turned his attention to them. And after tossing a few dice in his palm, he was about to attack this insolent man who dared to escape from the game board. With a blow of tremendous force, he decided to destroy the surviving island with a few buildings on it, so that these pathetic bugs could not hide here anymore. However, his spear met incredible resistance on its way and even stopped completely. It was our future hero who had the power to do this. He agreed with that dead man's notes and everything, except for one final warning. And with the speed of red lightning, he swept across the player's spear, heading for his hand. In a moment he was already near what must have been the player's face and preparing to strike back. The blow was so powerful that it reflected a red flash on the player's face. After the blow, almost half of his face was missing and his huge carcass was falling in space. It was still possible to challenge the players, but even this blow wasn't enough to destroy the player who was already starting to regenerate. However, after a moment the regeneration stopped, and the missing part of his face lit up with a blue light. The player made a horrible sound that resembled a scream. As it turned out, our hero had a quality guidebook to help him fill in his missing knowledge, and he already knew how to destroy the player for sure. He was certain that he was not going to obediently suffer here for the rest of his days just because of some stupid game of the gods. So he was going to kill the players and the game and return to his home world, so that there would be no more poor people like that skeleton in the future. Which by the way managed to survive, and after the second blow on the island, which shattered into even smaller pieces, his skeleton began to crumble. And only his shining white gold armor remained there. Nothing could stop our hero, who was sure that he could, together with his friends and allies, put an end to this cursed game.